Hi Baes, I hope you're well and I hope you're keeping well since our last video. My name is Ofente and I'm your book bae. Your book bae is once again in the building with another video. If you don't know who I am, on this channel we do bookish and lifestyle content. So welcome to the fam. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you for stopping by. So in this video, we will be reviewing Bell Hooks' book, Communion. Bell Hooks, also known as Gloria Watkins. Bell Hooks is her pen name. So yeah, that's just basically what this video will be about. I think it will be more of a discussion video as opposed to a review because there's so much subject matter that is included in the book. So, but I suppose all our reviews are discussions. So if there's anything that you have to say about the book just before the review, let me know if you've read the book. Let me know how you thought about the book, what it made you feel like, what it prompted you to discuss, or in your circles or even in your book club, in the context of your family, close people around you. Just drop a comment down below and let me know. With this review, I'll be having a look at my notes here on my laptop. In one of my previous videos, I mentioned how I had been forgetting the names of characters in the book. It was the review on Adichie's Dream Count, and somebody in the comment section mentioned that I should actually make notes as I read, and that would help me to remember certain things. So shout out to that subscriber. I really appreciate the feedback, and I am using the feedback. So if you just see me just like peering down on my laptop, just know that I'm looking at my notes. In terms of how we normally structure videos on this channel, we go through different headings, and the first heading that we normally discuss is the synopsis of the book. So just a little bit about the book. If you don't know who Bell Hooks is, the author, she is a professor and an author, critic, and she's an educator as well as an academic. Very thought-provoking pieces of writing. And I actually first encountered her writing when I did a course in third year English about feminist literature. So since then, I have been a Bell Hooks stan, and I feel like every time that I read her work, it's quite thought-provoking and always makes me feel and consider things a little bit more from a different perspective sometimes. So I think that her writing is very rich. Now, in terms of this book, Communion, when I first actually decided to read this book, I had read that it was a book that was discussing female friendships. So as much as that is part of the book, it's not the whole book in its entirety, meaning that it's more so about the female experience of love and community as opposed to just friendship. Right? So how it critiques a lot of things, like how women show up in relationships, all types of relationships, not just romantic relationships. The book was actually first published in 2002. So now it's about 23 years later that we're actually having this review, and Bell Hooks has since passed away. So may she rest in peace. And yeah, that's basically that. So in terms of the book itself, yes, we've discussed that it's really just about the search for love and companionship and how women show up in relationships, and just critiquing the ways in which we might be adding to our relationships as well as taking away from the opportunity for us to become close and to build meaningful relationships with other women and men and people in our lives, right? That's a little bit about the book. That's the synopsis of the book. And then in terms of the themes of the book, there's a lot of themes. We have patriarchy, we have women showing up in relationships, we have interpersonal relationships, romantic relationships, the relationship with the self, which is always a departure point for Hooks, love, what love is, what the idea of love is. So I had reviewed All About Love on this channel as well prior to this review. All About Love was actually written before Communion. So essentially Communion is an extension of All About Love. All About Love was about love and what love is and the concept of love and how we show love, how we receive love, and how we understand love as a community. And then as an extension, this is more so about women and their relationship with love and how they show up in love. I'm saying they like I'm not a woman myself, but yes, how we show up with in our relationships and how we love and how we choose to love and how we receive love and what we understand love is. And it starts kind of like as a departure point. It uses patriarchy as a departure point. So what is patriarchy, and kind of deconstructs it in this context of romantic relationships with other people. So how this social structure affects how we love and receive love. What other themes can I think about? Wanting community. I think also about self-esteem, because that's a big one in the book, where the relationship with yourself often governs how you show up in your relationships with other people. Marriage is also a big theme in the book, and friendship as well. So those are some of the themes that come out in her writing. I think a big one is also just interrogating the self, as opposed to looking at love as something that is completely external and something to receive. Something that Hooks actually said that stuck out to me, that I had actually shared on my Instagram story while reading, is that this idea of creating love as opposed to just receiving love or giving love, that in a romantic relationship it's important to create love as opposed to just saying that, okay, I love this person, but how do you come together and create love and make sure that the interaction continues to be loving, and what does each partner actually understand love to be? So that's the departure point, the relationship with yourself, and then what does each party understand what love is, and then how do you create love in the context of the relationship, which was so powerful to me. I meditated on that for a long time because I was asking myself, like, in relationships, have I also been able to, have I been an agent of creating love or not? So something to consider. And I definitely think that in terms of her writing all the time, it's often very thought-provoking and encouraging for you to think about how you actually can apply some of these theories to yourself, and does it apply to you, and are there places where you could improve, or are you just perfect, which is unlikely. Yeah. What I liked about the book and what I didn't like about the book. So there were a lot of key takeaways in the book that I enjoyed. I can mention a few here. That I have a lot of notes, but I'll just use one of the quotes that stuck out in chapter 9. The chapter is called Sisterhood, Love and Solidarity. So this is what Hook says. She says, most women search for love hoping to find recognition of our value. That is this first sentence in the chapter. Mind you, I was taken aback by that because I was like, wow. Like, it's so true, because I think that more than anything in our society, women are always taught to be seeking or to feel like there's something that they're lacking, when men are often socialized, men and young boys are socialized to believe that they are the full package. So as much as we can say that men often find themselves defined by the ability to provide or their financial or material wealth, but women, if it's not your wealth, it's your looks, it's your appearance, it's your hair, it's your weight, it's your education level, it's how people interact with you. Are you likable? Are you successful? Do you speak a certain way? Do you carry yourself a certain way? Do you dress a certain way? What is your fashion sense? Like, there's so many things that I think that women are often judged on from a societal level as opposed to men, right? And a lot of that has to do with patriarchy, because women are always put in a position of wanting as opposed to just being, right? Which I think that as much someone can argue with, maybe a man can argue with me in the comments. I think I've summed it up. That stuck out to me. And then another quote from the same book chapter is the following: a woman who does not learn first how to fulfill her psychological needs for acceptance will always operate from a place of lack. That was particularly powerful, because in this idea of self-esteem and what self-esteem is and having a strong sense of self, it makes sense that if you don't have a strong sense of self, or you feel like there's a void or something that's lacking internally, you will always go out looking for it elsewhere, right? So because this book is particularly about women, I'm sure that some of these ideas and concepts can also be attributed to men as well, but this discussion is primarily about women. And that's why it's so important, all these things that we have, Who Run the World, girls, like all these movements and all these things that affirm women and affirm women's place in society, that they're so powerful and they're so important, because without having this feeling of belonging and this feeling of just looking at yourself and knowing that I'm special and I bring something to the table that nobody else can bring because nobody else is me, it's important to be grounded in that way, because if not, as a woman, I think we're more vulnerable to being taken advantage of by society. I won't even say men or boys or anything, it's just a societal thing, right? Because particularly they often say that Black women are the least cared about or most vulnerable demographic in society. And then I just want to highlight one more quote that comes up in chapter 11, which says, the search for men who love. So the following is actually just my thoughts on the matter. I just took it down in terms of how I understood Hooks to explain this topic. I wrote here, girl children use their male examples around them to formulate ideas of love. Hooks notes diverse representation of men in her life and attributes her loving kind grandfather as the main reason she didn't hate men. So I actually, in this moment, I thought about Michelle Obama's podcast. If anybody watches, in my opinion, Michelle Obama talks about how she has Barack, ex-president of the United States, Barack Obama, on the podcast with her that she has with her brother Craig, and they actually get to talking about masculinity and what they understand masculinity as being, and how their idea of masculinity growing up contrasted with what they see and understand masculinity to be in this current moment as grown men. And that was so powerful to me, because also online there's this discussion about how men are homosocial, meaning that men derive value from their identity with regards to how other men view them, right? In that conversation, women or girl children experience men from the men that they are exposed to, but they're not necessarily always the priority in that way. And then I'd like to go on to what I liked about the book. So what I like about the book, what I like about all Bell Hooks' writing, is that it's always thought-provoking. It's always rich writing. She is so well researched. Like, if you read the book, you will see that she brings in so many different perspectives and so many different authors and their perspective as well. It reads a lot of the time like a literature review, because there's constant information from different sources, and she interrogates the writing and she provides her viewpoint based on an informed perspective. So that is refreshing, because I feel like also in modernity, like, so many people are so quick to postulate their opinions without necessarily having the information to back it up. And it's a different thing to present an opinion and just not have the opportunity to elaborate and explain categorically why you feel that way, and then just not having an informed opinion at all. Just feeling like you have an idea, and that just because something happens to be your opinion, it happens to be fact. And it's important, I think, that as we progress in society, that we understand the difference between opinion and fact. Very important. What I disliked about the book, I don't think I necessarily disliked anything. I know that leading up to my choosing the book, I had read a review on Instagram, actually, one of my bookish content creators, my peers, and she had posted this a while back, because I just searched Bell Hooks Communion, I forget her name now, but she spoke about how she felt like a lot of the ideas in this book were outdated. And although I think that I disagreed with that, because I felt like a lot of the ideas were relevant depending on the space that you're in, of your life that you're into, and also your lived experience. So of course, some ideas, like her thinking with regards to what is the norm and what are the norms in society, that may be outdated since the book was written in 2002. But in terms of the book itself, I don't think there's really much to dislike. I think that, you're just really not going to agree with everything that someone writes, and whether or not you identify with it does not necessarily mean that the information is outdated. So I wouldn't really say there's anything to dislike. I just think that she provides different perspectives, and then you decide what your perspective is based on what you're reading. Would I recommend this book, and what I would rate it? So I would recommend this book. I think it's worth reading to women who are just wanting to interrogate how they show up in their relationships, and also wanting something more, something as like a continued discussion from All About Love. So if you've read All About Love and then you are curious to read more and understand more and just develop some of the thought processes that had begun after reading that book beyond what you were thinking at the time, it's worth a read. And overall, I would give the book a solid 8 out of 10. Yeah, I think it's an 8. It's well written, it's well researched, and definitely worth the read. If there's anything that you feel like I left out or you want me to elaborate more on, please comment down below, or inbox me on Instagram. I'm happy to have a discussion beyond that. Please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye for now.